Ni hao, Royce White fans, Houston Rocket fans, NBA D League fans. We're here to talk about the Vipers 118 to 110 victory over the visiting Austin Toros, which took place on the 6th of March 2001-3. Alright, let's get down to beeswax. Royce White plays 45 minutes in this game, scores 23 points, shattering his previous high, which I believe came last game, with 10 points. So 23 points on 6 of 14 field goal shooting and 11 of 15 free throw shooting. He had 9 rebounds and 4 assists. He passed very well to cutters. Don't let that 4 assists make it sound like scoring was the only brilliant part of Royce White's game this game, because it wasn't. So Royce White has 23 points, crazy different from any other score he's put up. He's scored somewhere between 0 and 10 points, usually closer to 0 in the past games. But he's been getting more minutes, and he's integrating into the team, which is something I'm going to talk about a lot. And he went on a free throw rampage. I didn't realize we were in a free throw rampage until about halfway through it. It started at the end of the third quarter and ended around the mid of the fourth. And over this period, I think he took maybe 9 free throws, and just kept getting fouled. And it was something I never saw from Royce White before. There were some offensive fouls. He sparkled in some turnovers, but shit, I'd never seen that before from him. And it was a cool element to his offense. But anyway, that's neither here nor there for right now. Glenn Rice Jr. carries this team off offensively by design. Most of the plays go through, our design plays go through Glenn Rice Jr., which I thought was interesting. He does have a really unique skill set. He's strong and can shoot setup shots. They started the game by every time they had a chance to set up the ball and run a play, they went to Glenn Rice on the inside. So this is sort of maybe something that hasn't been so apparent in the past, and perhaps this was just a game plan for this game. But to me, it looks like Glenn Rice is getting a bigger role in this team. And I say bigger, but I might actually mean biggest role on this team. Gowdlock is the only other player. I mean, it's Gowdlock 1 or 2, Glenn Rice 1 or 2, Royce White 3, and that's really how it feels right now. But Glenn Rice, I think this guy has oodles of NBA potential. I can't wait for this guy to get to the NBA, and I really think he will. Not everyone in the D League is going to get a chance, but I hope and think Glenn Rice will. I'm going to start this buzz right now because I looked up Glenn Rice NBA potential, NBA signings, NBA contract, nothing. No one's talking about this guy, and he deserves a conversation. He is not only one of the strongest, if not the strongest players on the Vipers, but he has a unique skill set. So Glenn Rice, awesome. Andrew Gowdlock, Mr. Consistent. They call him Mini Mamba. I want a new nickname for this guy. He played on the Lakers. I understand where the Mini Mamba came from, but he's on the Vipers now. And I guess the snake theme makes sense, but can he be the Viper or El Viper? I don't know. Mamba? I think that's a Spanish thing. I just Spanishized Viper by saying El Viper. Wow. Anyway, Chris Johnson, big shots in quotations from Chris Johnson. So the announcers love Chris Johnson. They talk about this guy so much you'd think he'd be the star on the team. One of the announcers was like, yeah, I talked to Chris Johnson before the game, and he said he'd give me four 3-pointers, and just when he made that 3-pointer, he looked at me and held up 2 and winked. And I was like, God damn, you guys need to leave Chris Johnson alone. He's trying to play basketball, and he's good. He's a starter, and calm down. really, really calm down. They talk about him a whole lot. A player who actually probably got talked about less than Chris Johnson, but had a bigger impact was Teray Murray. He plays streaky. He pissed me off on the first play of the game because he gets an open lane. It looked like the Red Sea was parting, except I believe they were wearing San Antonio Spurs colors. But anyway, everyone just cleared out for some reason from the lane. Open dunk, misses it. I was like, God damn it. This guy used to be on the bench. I was like, why is this bench player starting and staking up the joint? And he ended up playing pretty well. I'll talk about that in a sec. Oh, okay. So the Vipers are looking for a new starter, it would seem. They have Gowdlock starting at point, Glenn Rice and Chris Johnson starting at their forward spots, Royce White at center, and they're looking for a shooting guard, or I guess a point guard, because Gowdlock is really interchangeable. They tried Malik Waynes last time. He had a good game numerically, and but I watched it, and he he honestly tried to make himself the center of the offense, and I don't know if that was by design. He took it to the rack a lot, and a lot of times it wasn't a good take. Sometimes he'd run. He's a short guy, and he'd run into two or three guys in the post, the trees as well. And he's a short guy, and he made a big three at the end of the game. I don't want to make it sound like he had a bad game. I just don't think he fit in very well with the starters, and he definitely didn't have a good game. It was somewhere on the line between good and bad, but it wasn't bad, it wasn't good. But his numbers did look pretty good. So I think they didn't like that, or I don't know, they were trying something new, and they tried Teray Murray. Malik Waynes didn't even touch the court today. Murray played, I don't know how many minutes. I won't look. Well, yeah, let me look it up. Malik Waynes played maybe like 30 minutes, maybe a little less. 40 minutes. He played 39 minutes. 39 minutes. All right, so he didn't seem in tune with the offense at all times. Beyond that dunk in the very beginning, he didn't seem in tune with the offense at all times. Sometimes he'd take a shot, and I didn't really agree with the shot he took. He was 7 for 9, though, which makes me think that maybe he didn't have as many shots I disagreed with as I thought he did. But I do recall, and I do think that he was not in tune with the offense. But that sort of makes sense. I think about Royce White's first few games. This is game number 7 that I've reviewed. 8. Game number 8 I've watched, and only right now does he really seem to be getting in rhythm with the team. So Murray's not used to starting. We'll see how that goes. I would not give Malik Waynes a second try. I would give Teray Murray a second try. The first game I watched, I actually thought Teray Murray was one of their star players. Having no idea who is who, Teray Murray really stuck out to me, and then he was sort of buried on the bench. So I'd like to see how he can work at the shooting guard. The Vipers picked up 2 new players in a trade that happened yesterday. First game with them. Kennedy, who's a 6'5"-ish guard. They call him a scorer. He shot a lot from outside today. Was not a good game for him. He ended with Kennedy 7 points on 2 of 9 shooting. 1 for 4 from the 3-point line, and he sort of looks to me like a 3-point shooter, and not even a set 3-point shooter, someone who could create his own shot from free throw line and beyond, which is a cool talent, cool skill set. And they were high on him, but anyway, I never really know what to make out of the D-League's coverage of these players because they say a lot of things. Last game, the pregame show, they talked about Tyler Honeycutt for maybe a quarter of the show. And he got traded, or he got dropped. Tyler Honeycutt was not on the team. And they're talking about Tyler Honeycutt. And then, of course, no mention of that whole conversation once the game started. So they say he's a scorer. He looked like a scorer to me. We'll see how this goes. He had jitters this game. He had jitters, quite apparently. So I'd like to see him calm down and see what this guy can do. Mike Singletary is the other new player. He's apparently he was the scoring leader on the team previously and was dealt in a trade. Maybe they didn't give me a timeline, but I assume a while back. He didn't really. Let me look at his stats. He was 4 from 6, 21 minutes, 4 of 6, 10 points. They played him at Royce White's position when Royce White came out for a breather. That, I think, is the talk of the town, or should be right now, because Royce White played 45 minutes tonight, and for some reason he didn't play Hassan Whiteside. But 45 minutes is too much. You cannot rely on Royce. I mean, maybe you can, because D League isn't the NBA. They don't have a game every few days, but I don't know. If you're playing a back-to-back, you're kind of killing Royce White, making him play 45 minutes on the second game. That's absurd. But Royce White's going to need a breather sometimes. As we know, he has mental breakdowns on the court, and I'm not saying that because he has mental issues off the court, but he really, really does have a funk he gets into on the court, which is something you don't want to see. And I talk about that every game. If you ever listen to another one of my videos, you know that he gets into these. He stops playing defense. He'll start turning the ball over more. He won't look for his shot. He sort of fades from the court and becomes a negative presence. So when that happens, it's nice to know that they're trying Mike Singletary in Royce White's position at the undersized 5. They did it for just 3 minutes in this game, or maybe 5 minutes it was, and it did not go well. But I'll talk about that in my game breakdown. Scott Machado is another new player. He's been on the team for a few games. He wasn't a part of that trade, and I've heard some buzz about him, but he hasn't touched the court. I don't know why. Bad reffing and scoreboard issues. The fouls in this game, I'm going to talk about it later, but suffice to say, the fouls were not getting called with any regularity. Like I said in the last game, refs usually set a line and a tone to the game, and they consistently they set a bar, and a bar for fouling, and hopefully they stay consistent throughout the game so they can establish a tone for the players, and the players can get into a rhythm that makes sense with how the refs want to ref the game. That doesn't happen in these games. This didn't happen last game, and it didn't happen this game, and it was really, really to the detriment of the Vipers in this game. And as someone who watches the Vipers, and doesn't really know much about the Toros, and roots for the Vipers during the games, I might be biased, and maybe a Toros fan, wherever they exist, might disagree with me, but I think that Glenn Rice especially, but also Royce White, were taking it to the rack a lot. And although Royce White had 15 free throws, he should have had more. Glenn Rice had 11 free throws, and he should have had way more. And the scoreboard. So a mysterious number 66 on the Austin Toros was given 2 fouls throughout the game. The first foul was actually supposed to be given to the starting center, Rick, one of those Jackson. Rick Jackson gets called. They say 00, and then there's some talk saying that it was actually Roberts, who's one of their their starting small forward, who's number 10, so just 10 as opposed to 00. And then they gave the foul to number 66, who does not exist on the court on the team. So they got away with a free foul. And then later in the game, and this is important because Rick Jackson, who didn't end up having a big impact on the game, is like 6'10", 6'11", way bigger than Royce White. And we know Royce White struggles with that. We know the Vipers struggle with offensive rebounds. So when they cheated this guy or didn't give him a foul he deserved, that's an issue. And then later in the game, number 66 was given a less important, but a second foul. And so I don't know what that's about, but that's a really rookie mistake. And the D League continues to, I don't know, I think they kind of mask that they're a rookie league. They maybe just don't have the funds, probably don't have the funds, and I see a lot of this amateur stuff from them. So the Toros were a big, big, big team. They usually oversized. They were bigger than the Vipers throughout the game most of the time. They had 2 guards that stuck out to me. Roberts, who apparently was their small forward, but he looked like a guard to me. And then Kelly, who I believe was their shooting guard. Yeah, their shooting guard. Kelly put up 23 on 8 of 16 shooting. Green put up 20 on 7 of 11 shooting. So those were their big players. Their big men had inflated stats, which is something we see a lot from teams who play the Vipers. And inflated, I don't mean like they look better than they were. I mean they're more than they would be against an average team because the Vipers struggle with keeping guys off the offensive boards and they struggle with stopping players down in the post. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the game. So as per usual, we start the game with Royce White at the center. The starting lineup is Gowdlock, Teray Murray, Glenn Rice, Chris Johnson, Royce White. Royce White takes the jump. The first 2 set plays of the game go to Glenn Rice Jr. on the block. Glenn Rice Jr. is about 6'6", 6'7", and is very strong for his position. I see him more as a guard. Maybe I need to figure out how tall he is because this is important. To me, he looks like a strong and oversized guard. They play him at the small forward. He might actually be 6'7". I have no internet. I've heard before that he's 6'7". I think I'm just trying to believe otherwise because I have this idea of him as a super shooting guard. He's stronger than most of the players that he gets matched up with. Today they put the biggest defender I've ever seen on him, who was actually bigger than him, and Glenn Rice could still take him to the bucket. So Glenn Rice has a unique talent and has a low post force for a player at his position, and they went to that consistently throughout the game. But the first 2 set plays of the game, they go to him. In between the 2 set plays, Royce White gets a rebound and goes coast to coast. So they're trying to establish Rice. Teray Murray gets a failed dunk attempt in there, but their game plan is go to Rice in the beginning. The Toros' game plan was go inside in the beginning, which I've seen from the past 2 teams they've played, the Iowa Energy and the Santa Cruz Warriors. And the Energy did do a good job with it, and neither did the Toros. White is getting better at avoiding fouls, which I am so happy to see. He puts his hands up a lot and does not. Something that he used to do is he put his hands up, but also swipe in at the ball, and that's just a mental lapse. You put your hands up, you know the intent is keep away from the foul, but you know that the swipe means you might get a foul. So if you do both, that's just bullshit play. You need to just put your hands up or go full out and get the ball. He just puts his hands up. And I haven't seen this before from Royce White. I saw it for the first time. Happy to see it. The game was characterized in the beginning by a bunch of turnovers from both teams. I believe at the end of the first quarter, we had 10 from the Toros and like 8 from the Vipers. So that was bad. Kelly, with 5:40 left in the quarter, he's a guard on the other team, the not Vipers. Off of a pick and roll, hits a moving 3-pointer. That was pretty cool. 5:19, next time down the court, Royce White takes a charge. I've never seen Royce White take a charge, and I saw it a few times in this game. That was awesome. Not only does he get a few blocks a game, and he had 3 in this. Did he have 3? No way. 2. He had 2 blocks. Last game he had 3. And now he's taking charges. This is cool to see. He got blocked by Patrick Sullivan with 5 left in the first quarter. And my comment was, wow, this team is big. Mike Singletary comes in the game for Royce White with about... No, not yet. Mike Singletary comes into the game. And my first comments were on him. He makes a floater. Or a big guy, nice touch. Royce White takes a bad shot with 4:32 left. He's looking for his shot, trying to establish himself, or the team is trying to establish him. And you can tell that they're doubling him. They're going at Royce White, trying to make sure Royce White doesn't become a force in this game. And they succeeded for most of the game. Royce White then, about a minute later with 3:30 left, gets the ball stripped from him. I think he scores, like he gets knocked out, scores, and then they call a travel on him. Royce White's comment and the announcer's comment was he got it knocked away from him, but the refs didn't have a good angle, and they thought he retained possession of the ball and took like 4 steps. I wanted to see him I saw that and I was like, you can't do anything about that, but I want to see Royce White keep his head up and keep playing well. And with 3:10 left in the quarter, 20 seconds left, Royce White gets a strip and the other team turns it over. Happy to see that. So second quarter, Mike Singletary starts where Royce White plays. They put in Singletary, who's about the size of Royce White. They say Royce White's 6'8", 270. He don't look like no 270 to me, but Singletary's about the same size as Royce White, so I'd put it more near 250. Singletary's probably a little less than Royce White, maybe 240. But the team starts scoring inside. The other team does. 3 set plays in a row go into the post, and this is when a player on the other team, there's a Wilkes and there's a Walker and a Wilkerson, I think, and they were both big. I think it was Wilkerson who was an issue throughout the game. He scored 14 points, 3 offensive rebounds, 10 total, but all of his points were like in the post and would have been defended better were there someone bigger than Royce White or Mike Singletary in the post. Royce White comes in with 8:30 left in the second quarter, and the scoring inside sort of stops. Glenn Rice starts taking it to the bucket. He's fouled 5 times at that point in the second quarter, and that becomes a theme in the game. He gets fouled a whole lot. 7:30 left in the quarter. Royce White turns the ball over, doesn't get back. I almost subtracted his first be well of the game for there. I actually did, and then I took it back because although he didn't get back, he sort of put his head down for like a second the way he sometimes does, whereas other times he'll just sprint right back. More rarely he does that. But this time his man had nothing to do with the play, and his pause wasn't that long. He did pause, but he got back pretty quickly. So I took away that minus be well. And then a little be well fury happens. Royce White starts getting assists in the transition game, and it was nice to see him playing well in the transition game consistently. Sometimes you'd see him get stripped at the rack, take a dumb shot, but there were a few plays in a row, 2 of which he got assists on, from 6:40 to 4:20 left in the second quarter, where he made the right decision and got assists out of it, so I gave him a be well. He scores with 2:20 left and then gets a charge, his second charge, on the other side of the court with 2 minutes left. That back-to-back, big play on offense, big play on defense, I gave him a be well for that. I usually give a be well for that. And then with 1:40 left, it's kind of weird. He scores with 2:20, takes a charge with 2, and then with 1:40 left, the next possession, he I'm sorry. He takes a charge, so then his team's on offense. He plays poor offense and bad off. I don't know what the hell my notes are saying. I have bad offense and his man scores. I think I meant bad defense, although he got a charge, so they would have had ball. What I think happened, bad offense, Royce White played poorly, the ball got turned over because of Royce White, and his man scored because he didn't get back. Before, I didn't give a takeaway a be well because his man didn't score. This time, because Royce White took his lazy-ass time and had to brood over the play, or chose to brood over the play, his man scored. And he almost got back. Now it's coming back to me. He almost got back, and that was what pissed me off more, because had he not took that time to put his head down, he would have got back and stopped the play, because he was 3 full steps away from being in a position to stop that score, and I believe that was Walker or Wilkinson. So we're at halftime. Royce White hasn't played particularly well. We're seeing a better integration from him into the offense, and I gave him a few be-wells because he was making good decisions in his assist game and was making plays on the defensive end. These are all sort of new things we're seeing from Royce White. So not new as in like they weren't in his game before, but new as in he hasn't showed them before. So this is good to see. Third quarter, I immediately take away a be well because he picks up his first technical foul. He didn't get into foul trouble in this game, but I'm always scared that he's going to get ejected from a game. I've seen it twice now, twice out of 8 games, and most of those he wasn't even playing that often. He was probably playing a lot in 3 of those games, so 4 of those games. So he's gotten ejected 2 out of 4 games. He's had significant playing time, so he got a tech for a no call. Now he was right. there should have been a foul, I believe, and the announcers were with me, but we're biased Vipers fans, so who knows. But then, so he gets 9:56 left in the quarter, scores, complains about the no call, gets teched up for it, and then 9:42 left in the quarter, the other team takes it down and is fouled, is shooting free throws. He's still talking to the ref. Okay, so 0-0, Rick Jackson, who earlier got a foul and the foul was given to number 66, fouls again, and the foul is given to 66 again, which is bullshit. 7:35 left, 6:45 left. Rice takes it to the rack. It really looks like he's getting fouled. This guy is crashing to the floor, and they're not calling anything. I'm going to put up a highlight video over the weekend, and I'll put this in. It looked like it was bull. It was really bull. They were getting fouled, and the refs just weren't calling it. I don't know why. I always try to get into a ref's mind and see what, how is this guy trying to call the game? How is this girl trying to call the game? And I don't understand. These were fouls, and so the offense at this point is Royce and Rice taking it to the rack, and then the other players shooting threes otherwise. And Goudelock is always sort of in the middle. He'll make set threes, he'll make floaters, then he'll make lay-ins. At this point, he was just sort of shooting from the outside. 6:30 left. Ton of contact with Rice. This play was pretty. You saw him go up. A player met him in the air, and he got knocked to the floor, and the shot was nowhere close. And no call. And then on the next play, Royce White goes and runs to the bucket, tries to shoot, and they say it's an offensive foul because he put his forearm out. So I don't know. I'm starting to think that Rice and Royce are becoming friends. They're both sort of head cases on the court. It's kind of funny that they would get some chemistry. I always see them seeking each other out to give each other back pats or high fives, so I think there's some chemistry there. Maybe that means something, maybe that doesn't, I don't know. And they pass well together. Every game I see a good pass between Chris Johnson and Royce White and Glenn Rice Jr. and Royce White. So speaking of Chris Johnson, 4:22 left in the third quarter. Royce White gets the ball in the corner near the three-point line and passes to a cutting Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson and Royce White have developed a nice chemistry doing this. Royce White usually gets the ball to him, and Chris Johnson I don't think usually finishes, but he does get fouled, which he did on this play. Makes the free throws. He's a good free throw shooter. Royce White scores with 2:40 left in the first half. In the third quarter. He has 10. All he has is 10 points at this. With 2:40 left, he scores his 10th point. This is where the fury begins, and I give him a B well for this whole fury. So 2:40 scores, 116 fouled, doesn't make the bucket. 51 fouled again, had no chance of making the bucket. 29 left, fouled again, goes to the bucket. 4 shooting fouls in 2 minutes? In 2 minutes. And one of my comments here is Royce White has still, in 8 games, not made a jump shot. And, quote, it's safe to say it's just not part of his arsenal, end quote. Not so true. Not so true, as we will see. Fourth quarter. My comments here. This is an average game in terms of Royce White's play. He's had a lot of more nice passes than I've seen usually, not always resulting in assists, so they didn't translate to numbers directly, although his play was good because of those. His rebounding was good. He has stepped up as a center and a guard of the center position. He's just gotten better at it. It's partially that, and then partially he hasn't played another team that was as furious on the offensive boards as the Santa Cruz Warriors were. I recall Taylor Griffin had 7 offensive rebounds in like 20 minutes. Hilton Armstrong was killing him. Then they had Gladness, who was also destroying him in the post. Or not destroying him specifically, but destroying the Vipers, and he couldn't be bothered. I mean, a lot of times he wasn't even in the scrum, and when he was, he couldn't do anything anyway. But it seems like his rebounding, number one, has stepped up, And two, either he hasn't played a center that was as quality as Hilton Armstrong, who did, I saw online, a decent job of guarding Dwight Howard earlier this year. So that's a quality guy. So yeah, he also got that tech, and I was pissed off about that. I'm mad he got that tech. So fourth quarter. Beginning of the fourth quarter, 11:30, misses an easy lay-in, but stays with the play, gets his own offensive rebound, and shoots the ball over to the top of the key, or top of the center of the court, and Gowdlock makes a three. With 10 minutes left, he gets a dunk. With 9:30 left, and he gets a offensive foul. And this is another, he uses his forearm, and they say his use of the forearm is illegal. I'm going to put this I'm going to make a video over the weekend called Royce White's forearm, because I've seen him use a lot of his forearm in ways I think are illegal. And this is the first time it's been called. So this is sort of a secret issue with Royce White. Like, there's the big issues, there's the mental health, then there's the less big issues that a Houston Rockets fan knows about, where he doesn't report to the Rockets. He got ejected from the game. And then there's the secret issues. The secret issues, my friend, are between you and between me. Royce White's forearm is a secret issue. And I'll talk more about that in my video this weekend. So the fury, the rampage, the hellfire that is Royce White shooting from the free throw line continues with 9 minutes left. Royce White is fouled, and I give him a B well here just because he's showed a new part of his ability to play within this offense. I've seen Glenn Rice take it to the bucket a bunch. Never Royce White successfully take it to the bucket. He showed he can do it. It's going to happen more often now. So he can be relied on for scoring, and that was apparent here. And he proved that here with this fury of free throws. So I give him a B well. 8:28, fouled again. I think this is 6. So it was 4 at the end of the fourth, and now 2 more plays where he's fouled. So 6 shooting fouls on him, and he's still on the free throw rampage. 7:30 left. 7:30 left. The Vipers are up 16. This is directly attributable to Royce White getting to the line 6 times. That lead was Royce White. So I'm not going to give him a B well, but I will give him an ovation. So I give him an ovation, and he almost deserves a second one. I'm also not going to give him a B well for this because it's not good play. This is what I expect. But Royce White makes his first official D-League jumper. He made a mid-range jumper, and it was pretty too. It was pretty. There was no rim on this. Are you kidding me? Royce White shooting a mid-range shot? Nah, it didn't touch the rim. So 5:25, he makes his first 2 points off of maybe this just means he was really, really, really super hot, because those were his last points of the game. And he was just so hot from making all those free throws. He was like, yeah, I'll pull up and make a mid-range jumper. So what if I haven't made one in 8 games? And so he did make it. And then I'm going to give him another B well, because over the next 5 minutes, he transitions from a scorer to a support position so not effortlessly, not flawlessly, not effortlessly, but so smoothly. Like, he was scoring a million at one point, and then the next he was making the right passes and just playing well and not looking for a shot anymore. And that's great. Someone like Ricky Davis might keep shooting after it gets cold, and you'll have to tell him, hey, calm down, stop shooting. Royce White just cut it off, and cut it off appropriately, and they won the game because of it. Now the other team does cut their deficit from 16 to 5 at one point. I'll get there in a second. I just want to talk before about Wilkerson, who I said was, quote, officially a problem at 4:06. He only had 14 points, but every point he scored was because the defender wasn't in position, a defender wasn't big enough, or he got an offensive rebound. So literally 14 points due to the Vipers' inside issues. Now, if I told you a player scored 14 points, you'd be like, whatever. But the fact that all 14 were scored because of a fault in a team, and I'm not giving any to the skill of Wilkerson. I'll give it to his size. And maybe he got in good position. He got in good, I guess, but this was bad. Wilkerson should not be putting up 14 points in this game. He should have had 2, 4, 6 points. And those should have come from the free throw line. So Royce White is clearly, to me, still not a true big man. I said that he was being an off rebounder, and what I meant by that, and I do think he's an off rebounder. What I mean by that is he's looking for the rebounds that bounce farther away from the rim. So let's say there's like an area from 0 to 5 feet where the big men kind of bang and try to get rebounds for tip-ins or to prevent tip-ins. Royce White likes to hang out in the sphere beyond that, where he can take the ball and push it up court. It's good because that's what Royce White does. That's what he's skilled at. It's bad because he's supposed to be playing center. And this is part of the reason Glenn Rice gets so many rebounds every game. He had 11 this game. He had 14 last game because Royce White likes to be an off rebounder and not be in the shit, so to speak. So 1 minute left. It's a 5-point game, no longer 16-point lead, and it's tense. And Goudlock hits a 3, big 3. The whole crowd's going crazy, and this is with 1 minute and 5 seconds left. With 57 seconds left, so what is that? 8 seconds later, Roberts on the other team hits a 3 right back, and this is sort of one of those. You get one, I get one, and the fact that it was happening with 1 minute left with such a close game was cool. And then Goudlock with 52 seconds left takes it himself, floater, and that was game right there. Goudlock goes at him. Roberts goes right back. Goudlock's like, shut up, I got this. And he does. And that was your game. Royce White picked up a BS foul. I watched and just laughed. I was like, yeah, right, there's no foul there. So that's your game. So I've been talking for a while, and I know I need to cut down the length of these videos. People like Royce White, but people don't like Royce White that much. And so I'll quickly talk about a few elements of the game, and then I'll give you a score of B-Wells, and accumulated B-Wells, and the Winnebago score for the game. Which honestly, I have a number here, but I'm not sure I'm going to say it. So integration into the offense. Transition offense, he's making the right play more often. A sensical scoring role. No longer, this goes into integration. Royce White knows when he should be taking the ball and knows when to pass it off. And you see a more distributed play, except for when Royce had that free throw rampage, at which point, that's another thing to talk about. Royce White established himself as a scorer for a short period of time. His defensive play as a center, I just talked about that. His continued bad attitude. When he got that tech, he risked going into a funk, and there were a few times unconnected with that event where Royce White didn't get back on defense and his man scored. So we're seeing less of that, but how many techs does it take to get kicked out of a game? Not many. So, and how many plays with bad attitude does it take to lose you a game? You never know. So he continues to do these things, and it wasn't big in this game, but let's say he gets ejected, let's say he gets into foul trouble, let's say the game they lose by 2, then these matter. And so to an NBA team, those are going to matter. And to Coach McHale, good luck, Royce White. I know, what's his name? McHale is a hard ass. Royce White is not going to get away with this stuff. He's going to be sitting on the bench with a frown on his face often if he plays like this at the NBA, at least with the Houston Rockets. That is there is another secret Royce White issue for you guys, for you listeners. when he gets to play with McHale, I mean, they're just a conflicting personalities. Royce White like bitches, and McHale wants a silent, hard playing player. So I don't know if they can coexist, honestly. Just thinking about it, I don't think they can, but hopefully we get to see it because that means Royce White was successful and Kevin McHale didn't get fired. So, yeah. The scoring fury, just talked about that. And then playing time, played 45 minutes. He cannot continue to do that, and he cannot be relied on to play 45 minutes. Whiteside didn't play, don't know why, and they tried Singletary at the center. I'm going to report more on that as I see it. Didn't work well at all in this game. They just got worse at rebounding, but they're trying it, so that's cool. And his transition to a non-scorer, that was I don't really know. I want to say that it was really good, but I'm not sure what significance to make out of it. Um, the fact that he did it so seamlessly. Oh, that was the word I was looking for. Seamlessly. That it shows mental poise. Yeah, it just shows mental poise that he can go from on fire to okay, step back. This is pass the ball. That's just I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I saw that. Okay. Also, my final note is I love Glenn Rice. I love Glenn Rice. I think he's awesome, and I'm going to continue the Glenn Rice should be an NBA player campaign. I'm the first signature. So I'm going to count up his B wells now. Good transition offense, consistently, one B well. Royce White scores and then gets a charge on the other side of the court. Two B wells. Royce White, bad offense and loses the ball, and then his man scores on the other side because he put his head down. Minus one B well. Royce White gets a technical because he's being an asshole. Minus one B well. Royce White fouled. Oh, this is the beginning of his foul rampage. I gave him a B well for that. So at this point, we are at one B well. Just one B well. And then Royce White, for successfully finding a role and leading his team on offense, I gave him another B well. And then a final B well for transitioning to a non-scoring role and winning and helping his team win the game. So that's 1, 0, -1, 0, 1, 2, 2 B wells. Now the announcers were saying, and the statistics say that this is Royce White's best game. I'm going to firmly say that it was not. The game before this was Royce White's best game. This looks like Royce White's best game because he had that scoring rampage. And I'm not maybe I am undervaluing the scoring rampage, but beyond the scoring rampage, he got that tech. He played good defense as a center, played good defense generally. His shot selection was and you can tell because his from the field he was 6 of 14. Some of those he should have been fouled on. Fair enough. He should have had more free throws than 15. Amazingly, and so should Glenn Rice. But he didn't. I mean, you can see in the B well counter, he didn't. He played well, but he wasn't playing like out of his mind. The scoring rampage was something new, but it wasn't something spectacular. It looked spectacular on the stat sheet, but I mean, don't you expect that from a first round pick playing in the D League? So 2 B Wells, and I'm going to give him 3.5 Winnebagos. Yay! Yeah! Go Royce White. Thanks for listening.